Good evening, I'm Rich Kane.
And I'm Tegan Orpit.
And I'm Josh Kozar. We're just on the brink of severe weather season here in the Tri-States.
And for the next 30 minutes, we're going to show you and your family how to stay safe during severe weather.
And to help you prepare, we have a special weapon within our arsenal, the elite weather team, the National Weather Service.
We can get information out to people much quicker than we could before.
The National Weather Service is the front line when it comes to predicting the weather.
We're updating our forecast constantly. Typically, we'll look at the next 12 to 24 hours that we'll really place a big focus on.
And that forecast could include rain or shine, or even the threat of severe weather. The National Weather Service doesn't take these extreme weather events lightly and takes time to prepare before the weather moves in.
Even before that, here internally, we're looking at staffing. We know there's going to be severe weather. So we're bringing in bodies, working our staff, and getting people in on overtime to make sure that we have enough bodies to handle the storms that are going to be moving through.
The term forecasting itself involves much more than a scientific guess.
Yeah, so the forecast process, it starts with the observed data. Okay, so that's sending up weather balloons, which many weather service offices do twice a day. So all this data then is assimilated into our models, which are run out of Washington, D.C. And those models essentially take these current observations and project them out 7, 10, 12, 14 days into the future.
The National Weather Service works closely with the Storm Prediction Center, helping to prepare you for a potentially dangerous weather event.
We'll start with the outlook phase, the Storm Prediction Center issues. So we get what are called slight risk, enhanced risk, moderate, high risk. So high risk being the worst, a 5 out of 5 essentially of chance of severe weather. So we'll start with those outlooks, and that's what we're sending to the public and to our partners that, hey, 2, 3, 4, 5 days from now, we could see severe weather on this day.
Communication is key when it comes to providing life-saving information to the public. Storm spotters, emergency managers, and local broadcast meteorologists are all part of a working network to keep you safe.
We have great relationships with our emergency managers here in eastern Missouri and western Illinois. They help us give reports, and we actually ask them for reports. Many of them are aware of the spotters in their area, so they can reach out to their storm spotters.
It's not just scientists keeping the public safe, but it could be you helping in the effort.
If you really do have that passion for weather and you want to become involved, attend a spotter class.
Coming up, an active winter could mean an active spring, and that means more weather alerts and drills for emergency preparedness. Those stories and more next on KHQA Severe Weather Special.
Mississippi River is making its way inland at this time.
When the floodwaters rise, KHQA is working for you.
The roadway has been completely covered in water.
We have the latest information and road closures online at KHQA.com, plus live coverage when and where it matters to you. We're your source for the latest weather and flood coverage. We're KHQA, working for you.
When people think KHQA, they think hometown station. They think friends and family, because we have people here who have worked many, many years, and people become familiar with you when they wake up with you in the morning or you put them to bed at night. With familiarity becomes trust, and trust is so important now more so than ever. I think KHQA sets itself apart by having that trust, having that familiarity. To say that I care about the news that we bring you is probably an understatement, because I live it, I breathe it, both at work and at home.
Believe it or not, it's been almost 70 years since the first tornado warning ever was issued for anywhere in the United States. We've come a long way since then, but now we have two various products that can be issued just to give you kind of a heads up in the event of inclement weather. First is a watch. What does a watch mean? Well, it means that conditions exist for the possibility of hazardous weather. This is just to make sure that you have a plan just in case that unsettled weather does begin to form and begin to affect your area. The question is, do you have a plan in case that weather threatens? Warning. It basically means just that. It means that weather is imminent or likely occurring. You need to take action to save your property and perhaps even your life. So make sure you know the difference. A watch means conditions exist for the possibility of that happening. Warning means it's actually happening and you need to take action now.
Now that you understand the differences between a watch and a warning, we want to explain how the National Weather Service actually goes about putting those into place. As spring blossoms, so too does the threat for severe weather.
Always trying to push information out as quickly as we can and as accurately as we can to keep people up to date.
Not only do you receive watch and warning information from us here at KHQA, but the National Weather Service is where that information originates.
Yeah, so we put out what are called weather stories. It's kind of just graphics on what to expect for the day. And we'll constantly update those too in active weather.
While the National Weather Service is the authority of what is considered a watch or warning, it takes a team effort among everybody to make sure that the public is aware of the impending weather.
Those weather stories that I mentioned, these graphics that we put out several times a day, we're putting it in our hazardous weather outlook, which is a product that we issue. We're putting it in our forecast discussions for you all TV to get that information and relay out to the public with us as well.
Communication among all parties involved continues to improve.
Yes, communication's come a long way, as we know. It used to be, fax machines and all those things. Then it used to be just phone calls. We'd just get phone calls and then communicate via phone to whether it be spotters or emergency managers, broadcast media. But now it's evolved with social media now and the internet.
Not only is the National Weather Service sending out information on their website, but the public is now able to receive warnings from almost everywhere.
Don't rely on tornado sirens to get warnings inside. Inside you have weather radio, you have your cell phone apps, you have television. You should have other ways to get warning information while you're indoors, not rely on the sirens.
The Tri-States had a very active winter, and that could be a sign of things to come.
And the National Weather Service out of St. Louis says that this could be an active severe weather season for us.
And that means the KHQA Elite Weather Team will be breaking into your programming during severe weather.
KHQA's Chad Douglas explains why this could be life-saving.
4 years ago, a tornado hit the town of Emden, Missouri in Shelby County. As our news crew showed up to survey the damage, one resident came up to our crew to thank us. She had been watching KHQA, and our weather team interrupted the broadcast for a severe weather alert. She said had she not seen that alert, she would not have known she was in danger. Her life was saved because of it. Severe weather is nothing to mess with. The National Weather Service and local meteorologists do their best to forecast and trace a storm's track. It's all in an effort to keep you and your family safe. There are several elements that go into creating a forecast, and remember, Mother Nature can change her mind at any time.
When it's something really bad, like a very strong thunderstorm or especially a tornado, there's really not a better way to get a hold of as many people as possible than breaking into television programming.
I asked Ben Herzog, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in St. Louis, how breaking into programming saves lives. He said that is hard to answer because there's no way to tell how many people have been saved because they saw a weather warning on TV. He does offer this advice for when you do see our weather team break into your programming.
Try and pay attention to the areas that they're really emphasizing. Try to find where your location is at on a map, and then see how close you are to the areas that the broadcasters are talking about.
If the storm is close to you or headed your way, make sure you listen to the information the forecaster is saying. It may sound like they're repeating that information, but keep in mind, just because you've heard the warning doesn't mean your neighbor or the person across town has heard that potentially life-saving information. Also remember, now is the time to prepare for severe weather. Don't wait until the warnings start popping up on TV to get your plan together.
They need to think about what they're going to do for where they're at. They need to think about how they're going to get information where they're at. And then they need to take the most important step, and that's just take action.
So you may have a plan in place for your home, but what about at work? What about in your car, or if severe weather hits while you're traveling? The best weapon in your arsenal to keep you safe in severe weather is your knowledge and the plan you put into place now.
Coming up after the break, I'll explain why it's so difficult to predict tornadoes and what the National Weather Service does after damage is reported.
I care about this community. I grew up on a farm just outside of Ursa, Illinois. I've been here basically my entire life. I started my career at KHQA. I did several internships. I stayed here in this community and it blossomed into a career I'm very proud of, serving my community the best way I can. And it's important for me to serve the tri-states in the best way that we can every day. I love this community, and that's why I'm working for you.
Severe weather can come in many different forms. Large hail, strong damaging winds, and even the threat for tornadoes all fit under that umbrella term. But not every thunderstorm creates a tornado, but meteorologists do have a better understanding of exactly how they form.
There's still being a lot of research done on just how tornadoes form, so we're honestly still learning about the process.
Not all thunderstorms produce tornadoes, but there are key ingredients necessary to make thunderstorms. Those ingredients involve moisture, a lifting mechanism, like a front, and instability, which is warm air near the surface and cold air above.
To get tornadoes, you also need some turning of the winds.
A tornado typically forms when we have southerly winds near the surface and westerly winds above. That creates shear, or the rotation of wind horizontally along the surface. Now all we need is a lifting mechanism, such as an updraft, to pick that rotating column of air and move it vertically. That's when a tornado can form, but it's not a tornado until that funnel cloud actually reaches the ground. In addition to the wind, clouds that are low to the ground are a must for predicting tornadoes.
So the shear and then the moisture, those low ceilings or those low cloud heights are two of the biggest things that we use. But there are all sorts of other factors that go into it. And that's what a lot of the current research is on, is just how we get some of these storms to rotate maybe aloft in the mid-levels, but how do they get a tornado to the ground? And we're still trying to learn some of that.
While there is still plenty to learn, meteorologists do have a good idea of pending severe weather threats.
I think we've gotten really much better at identifying the big days and being able to do that several days in advance. The tornadoes we had in the southeast several weeks ago, those outlooks were issued 5-6 days in advance, saying that this could be a big day.
While meteorologists still have more to learn, each tornado-producing storm gets us one step closer to saving more lives.
And even after the storm has passed, the National Weather Service's job isn't finished there. It's their job now to go out and determine how strong that potential tornado could have been.
If we get reports of damage, we'll send a survey team out.
There's still no accurate way to determine the wind speed inside of every tornado, so the path of destruction helps scientists to understand what the wind may have been.
And they'll go out with some software that we have on an iPad actually, and take pictures of that damage and then rate, if it was straight line wind or if tornado, what the rating was. Meteorologists
use the enhanced Fujita scale to determine the strength of a tornado based on the damage left behind. The weakest tornadoes are rated as EF0s, but the strongest are EF5s, with winds greater than 200 miles per hour. The National Weather Service office out of St. Louis demonstrates how they rate tornadoes out in the field.
So in this case, we'll pretend this tree in front of me is down and damaged. So we're going to actually take a picture of it through the app here. So we'll say down tree, and then we can actually say the damage indicator here is a tree. Well, if the trunk was snapped on a tree like this, the software is telling me it can really range from anywhere from about 93 to up to 120 miles an hour. So now I would use this tree and maybe some damage nearby to say, okay, this is about 100 miles an hour. in which case that would give us an EF1 rating for this particular track.
Once the storms have been rated, the cleanup process then begins.
Coming up on the KHQA Weather Special, I'll show you what you and your family need to have on hand to stay safe during severe weather.
I've been working in broadcast television for many years, and it's taken experience at mastering the craft. It's taken me years to do things over and over in order to do them better. That's what practice is, and that's what experience is to me. I'm working for the people around me, and I'm serving other people by working for you through KHQA. Experience does matter, and experience helps everyone get better at what they do.
With the severe weather threat increasing over the next several months, being prepared is key to you and your family's safety. Having an emergency kit is key to your survival. It's 2019, and that emergency kit may need a little updating. Tegan Orbit has some tips to bring you to the 2.0 digital age.
Let's start from the beginning. There are a few things that are standard that you can cross off your list for your emergency kit. 72 hours of food, a gallon of water per person, flashlights, first aid kit, batteries, extra clothes, medications, blankets, and anything else specific to your family's needs you will need in your kit. But in this new digital age, have you thought about your technology? Most everything we use today needs to be charged. It requires inputs, Wi-Fi, and so on. So it's a pretty good chance that your emergency kit will need to be upgraded with some of these. The upgrade could be a little pricey, so here are some things to get you started. Portable phone chargers, phone charging cables, solar-powered charger, USB port with all of your important documents, medications, and files, two-way radios, battery-powered string lights, and a 15-hour candle. It's important that all of these items be stored in a waterproof, airtight container that is accessible when severe weather hits. It's best to keep them in your designated safe spot for easy access. Tegan Orbit, KHQA News.
Tornado season has started, and it's important to know some of the myths from the facts. Healy Vetterline will show you how some of those myths of tornadoes could turn out to be deadly.
Here it comes. The first myth is to open your windows when a tornado is near.
Now we tell you, stay away from those windows. Don't worry about opening windows to equalize pressure and so forth. Stay away from windows.
Second, some think tornadoes don't cross water.
Tornadoes do cross rivers. They have before. We have had several tornadoes that have gone from Missouri into Illinois.
The water has nothing to do with it. If anything, that weather comes over water, it'll pick up more moisture.
A third myth is that tornadoes don't happen in the mountains.
I think a big part of it is there aren't many people in mountains to see tornadoes. So maybe that's part of the reason that people think that they don't happen, because they're not reported all that often.
The last myth is that tornadoes don't hit the same place twice.
I grew up in Ohio. Xenia, Ohio got hit by an F5, and just several years later got hit by another major tornado. So they certainly hit the same place twice. Moore, Oklahoma has gotten 2 major tornadoes.
Don't think you really know everything there is about tornadoes, because they're all different.
Reporting in the Tri-States, Healy Vetterline, KHQA News.
One of the big awakenings was when people started coming to me and asking for my advice. And I never thought that I'd be in that position. And now I'm in a job where I have a lot of young people coming to me. I find myself to be in a good spot. Trust is earned one day at a time. And if you violate that trust, it's awfully hard to get it back. in addition to that, you have to be accurate. We try to earn trust each and every day, and that's why we work for you.
I think experience is important because you tend to build a relationship with your viewers over the years. You kind of get an idea of what's important to them, what weather systems will impact them the most, how is this going to affect their daily life. When we're on your television screen, we're talking to our families, to the school teacher getting up in the morning, to the garbage collector who is getting ready to head out on his route. And we want to make sure that we are communicating and giving them everything they need to know so that they can have a head start on their day.
Stay on top of the weather by downloading the KHQA weather app. It gives you up-to-date hourly weather information, plus interactive radar wherever you go. And the best of all, it's free.
And don't forget, you too can be a part of our weather story. You can upload your photos to our Chime In account at KHQA.com or through the KHQA News app.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
We hope you and your loved ones are now more weather aware.
Stay safe out there, and we hope that you have a great evening. The Mississippi River is making its way inland at this time.
When the floodwaters rise, KHQA is working for you.
The roadway has been completely covered in water.
We have the latest information and road closures online at KHQA.com, plus live coverage when and where it matters to you. We're your source for the latest weather and flood coverage. We're KHQA, working for you.